Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today I'm joined by my new friend and co-creator in the Parallel space, Kobra, aka the Free Roll, and here's his YouTube channel if you want to check it out. It's gonna be in a link in the description and a comment. But yeah, today's video is gonna involve us going over the latest patch dropped for Parallel Beta, the meta decks, and potentially what is the biggest winner out of all of them, who's gonna be the best deck and the best deck in its Parallel, and of course some memes to go. So yeah, if you want to introduce yourself, Kobra.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me on. Like you said, my name is Kobra. I'm the host of the Free Roll channel and a big fan of Parallel, so quite excited for this discussion today.
Awesome. Great intro. You know he's a seasoned veteran in this space. All right. So, as per your inspiration to me, I would like to start off with Shroud. Now, for Shroud, my choice, and I think it's your choice as well, is Brand, and I'm gonna showcase to the audience here a deck called Daddy Brandy. And the idea here is that Brand got some massive buffs compared to the alpha. So he basically not only buffs units now into the singularity with extra damage, but he also gets them out even more powerful, and everything just rolls better together because Shroud just got a bunch of changes. So just to go over some of the few changes that I feel need to be talked about is Singularity Steward dropped to 1 and gets +2/+1, which is mental. It's absolutely insane. Life Siphon went into a 2 energy, 2 damage cost, which is mental because you used to have it as a 1/1/1, but with Engine Whisperer, it now becomes a 1 energy, 2 damage, and you banish the unit. It's just so many incredible changes for Shroud. They just really buffed them out of nowhere, in my opinion, and now they're way more powerful than they were before. And this is a discussion point I would like to have with you, Kobra, on the matter, is that on the last change, the last update on the alpha, on the third wave, Shroud went from a full control deck, and for those that don't know, control is a term of a deck that really wants to stall the game out and create kind of like this very difficult space for the opponent to do any sort of setup. And yeah, there used to be a lot more control, you know, play the mid game, try to banish stuff, control out the opponent, stall for time, and then go for that very late game and just play everything out and win through that. But in the end, on the third wave, I saw that the update made Shroud a lot more creature heavy, unit heavy specifically is the word in Parallel. So they now focus a lot more on buffing the playing units and buffing their units with the banishment mechanic.
Yeah, it's a pretty killer combination, being able to buff by banishing, because it's a big benefit to banish your opponent's cards right off the bat. When you're getting buffs as well, it's quite a lot to deal with.
Yeah, and you know, some of the cards, like, let me take this filter out so I can show everybody the Shroud cards. But yeah, a lot of the cards, a lot of the effects in Shroud got nerfed to the point where the people that used to play Shroud back in start of Alpha and Grey Box, in the Grey Box, cannot recognize it as the same. I would even go as far as to say that. Entropy's Reach isn't the same. Enthalpy's Grasp from a board clear with Pacifist went to a basically like a one-shot, like, you know, for 4 energy deal damage to a target unit equal to the number of cards in your singularity. So a lot of the changes focused on taking the power away from the effects of the Shroud cards and putting it into the creature side. So for me, now Shroud, from where it had that fatal flaw of being early game abusable, which you could even say that they could survive the early game, right? And they would utilize the universal pool through the healing to do that. Now, feel like they're missing in no space. They have the early, mid, and late game, and all of that is thanks to a continuous stream of creatures from low, mid, and early tiers, like 1 energy, 3 energy, 5 energy, 8 energy, and they all come together because they get buffed with the singularity bonuses. So it's a completely different battlefield where, I'll be honest, I don't really see any reason to go spell or effect casting in Shroud anymore, and Brand being buffed in this way really takes them a step further into make him the premier paragon for Shroud.
Yeah, I think it's quite clear that that Shroud is the best parallel, or the strongest parallel at the moment. Not just because Brand is so good now, but like you said, the units are really sick. There's a lot of really useful ones in here. I love the Spectre Attack Craft, for example.
Yes.
That's you're getting quite a lot for just 3 energy.
Yeah,
but they still have really strong effects. I mean, you're right that Shroud decks are not going to be quite as effect heavy as they might have initially been planned, but they still have probably the best set of effects as well.
Exactly.
Because Banish is so strong, and then the singularity as an exclusive for Shroud is just really hard to deal with all of the other exclusive abilities. There's a lot more ways to work around it and deal with it, but if you're not playing Shroud, you have no ability to interact with the singularity, which means you're completely at the other player's mercy when they're interacting with it.
And let's not forget, you don't have this ability like in Magic the Gathering where you can play on the other person's turn in parallel. You have to wait for them to play. So Shroud can really take its sweet time and do whatever it wants. And the insane thing is, and this is where I'll leave it before I saw the deck and talk a little bit about the other types of decks, is that the heavy Shroud spells effects were nerfed. So demolecularized, the Void Unleashed, Singularity Portal, those were nerfed, and I believe they were fairly nerfed for sure, but the true premier Shroud effects of Erasure, Life Siphon, the Flat Circle, like all of those things were just left there to exist, which is absolutely insane. Like if anybody wants to kill or destroy a unit, an enemy unit, they have to use Annihilate for 5 energy. They have to have some sort of premier effect on their parallel, if they even have that. And you have Shroud here for 3 energy, banishing a target unit and buffing its entire gameplay with it. It's bonkers.
Yeah, Erasure still being 3 is really pretty nuts, especially because it feels to me like a lot of the parallels got slowed down a little bit. And so,
Interesting.
On top of Shroud having all of this stuff, there's a whole bunch of other decks that are going to be less fast as well. And so I think
that's an interesting conversation to have there, maybe for the end of the video. But I do agree with you. So on the left, you can see all of the cards I've put in. You can take your time. I'm gonna scroll a little bit down, and if you want to have this deck ready for the beta, or if you're playing the beta, just copy it, boom, real fast. You're good with it. In the future, of course, I'm gonna be posting on the description the codes of the decks if you wanna copy them completely. And again, this is just theory crafting. I haven't played the beta yet, as everybody else. So you just have to take my word for it that I can build good decks, which I think I've proven in the past. But yeah,
this one especially is gonna be good.
Yes. So let me go over here and just press the new deck button. And if you see here, so if I go to the Shroud, I just want to show that we have 2. I think there's just a quick talk about the other potential Shroud decks. which is the New Dawn tick damage, I called it, and the Naya meme. So just to go over, wait, how do you pronounce your name? Because I could never remember, to be honest.
It's Neve.
Neve, right.
It's an Irish name.
Yes, Connor told me before, Merchant told me before, but I could never remember it, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, see, for me it's the same. She will never be the premier Paragon because like maybe in like 3-4 expansions where there's some crazy cards, maybe she can be a premier Paragon, but because she's so random, I just don't think she will ever have consistency, but I'll definitely have a lot of fun making memes out of it and videos out of it, you know?
Have you played a Neve deck very much?
Yeah, I played every deck I could back in the alpha.
Neve was the very first deck that I built, and I still really enjoy playing her. You're right, she's probably never going to be the meta because the randomness just makes it a little bit tough, but I really enjoy this game when I'm playing against my friends, and I don't necessarily want to
completely agree.
Maximize my chances of winning. It's a fun game fun Paragon to play, and when you trigger her, it's pretty wild.
Completely agree. And now let's take a second just to talk about the New Dawn, because it did get changed, and I would say it did get buffed. And now, even though I would like to play a lot of games and craft decks for it, I do want to say that it does not seem to be at the same level with Brand, but with all of the bank reveal buffs, so there's a lot of cards that change to get buffed or work with the enemy bank being revealed. Because that used to be a subclass of a deck existing. Now I think it's might be going even to a premier deck class. I think the New Dawn might have some secret decks going into that, especially with its own tick damage, you know?
Yeah, the New Dawn I think is going to be viable for sure. Neve, I don't think competitive players will focus on very much, but New Dawn I think you can still play. New Dawn gives you maximum control because it very easily allows you to pull from your singularity, which again your opponent has no way to deal with. The chip damage is nice, and removing the New Dawn is next to impossible.
Yeah, these days for sure.
It's pretty much going to always be in the singularity, which means you can't target it, and it can't be targeted by effects naturally. So New Dawn very hard to remove, and gives you a lot of control. I think that skillful Shroud players will do very well with this Paragon.
All right. I mean, one last thing before we go into the next Paragon, I would say that I feel, and this might be controversial, I know, I feel that Shroud complexity definitely lessened with this update. I feel like they're not as complicated and as difficult to pilot as they were. They still are complex, but not as much as they were for me. And I might be wrong going into beta, but that's my controversial take on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's too controversial. They are a little bit trickier than some of the other Paragons in general, but I agree, it's getting a little bit easier to play. And it's so strong that I don't think it matters.
Yes, exactly. So I wanted to jump to Augencore as the second parallel. And the reason why is because when I played, so Augencore might be my most played parallel. And even though I like all parallels the same, to be honest, Augencore really, I enjoy the playstyle of it the most, I think. Although I did put a lot of hours on Shroud and on Augencore, Marcolian, and the other ones. I think Augencore is my biggest one. And the reason why I want to go from Shroud to Augencore is because I used to have a deck specifically created for the tourneys that countered Shroud through Augencore.
Interesting.
Yes.
What deck was that?
So the combo was a one-shot combo, and the idea is that I would get the opponent as low as possible to utilize jury-rigged Juggernaut which for those that don't know, where is it? Where's Jury Rigged? Oh my. Anyways, let me take the filters out. I think that was a mistake. But yes, Jury Rigged says that attach master, so when it goes into the playing field, attach all upgrades in your bank to Jury Rigged Juggernaut. And it has battle ready, so it can attack immediately. So I would promptly use either anti-organic pulse or something to destroy all units, and then play Jury Rigged Juggernaut on a no defender field and one-shot the Shroud opponent. And
it's a fun combo.
The one-hit combo, exactly, OTK, one-turn combo. And the reason why this worked so nicely is because when Shroud was being a lot slower mid-late game, it didn't really matter for me because I was just setting up for something they couldn't properly fight, you know? And they couldn't really heal from it, and it was very easy for me to pull off. But now with the new Shroud, I feel like this strategy really falls short. And not only does it fall short, it also feels like with the new bank reveal mechanics, it might be even countered. So I feel like Augencore really got hit quite dirty with this update, with the Shroud update. But I feel like there is a new... So Augencore used to be all about the combos within the cards, but now I feel that one of the three Paragons is the premier Paragon for them and will be the win condition for them as well, apart from the combos. And do you know which one I have in mind?
My guess is that it is the was Arak.
No, actually Arak, although was always my most favorite one aesthetically, and he did have an interesting upgrade deck, I think Juggernaut Workshop is my preferred one. And I don't know if you saw these very subtle chains, but did you notice that says now Juggernaut Workshop starts the game with 4 counters. At the end of the turn, remove 1 counter. After the last counter is removed, choose and create a Juggernaut. Which basically means that every 4 turns you used to have a Juggernaut for defense, offense, or mid-range. Now you get Juggernauts every 3 turns because it says add 3 counters to it. So now you have a 1 turn earlier spike on your Juggernauts, which, if you truly think about it, is a massive buff for the Paragon.
Wasn't it 5 counters to start?
I think it was 5 and 4, yes, and it became 4 and 3.
I thought it was 5 and 5, but either way, this is definitely much faster, and the Juggernaut Workshop is much more viable now as well. I also think Juggernaut Workshop's an excellent choice for beginners. Because you don't really have to think about them as you're playing. It's just at the end of the 4th turn, you get your Juggernaut, and then at the end of the 7th turn, you get another one. 10th turn, another one. So it's pretty easy to play around.
It's pretty easy, and it really offers a lot of utility. Like, you might not have a good hand, you might just need something to delay anything really, and now you just get it a lot faster. And in all honesty, it's just like a massive, I would even say like a 30 to 40% boost on it in power.
Yeah, it's a big buff.
So
I don't think Juggernaut was really playable before, if I'm being honest.
Really? I thought it was pretty playable.
I feel like if I saw Juggernaut, I was getting a win.
Really interesting. Well, that's
the case anymore, though.
Sorry?
Is it not the case anymore?
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely viable today.
So, sorry I've taken too much of the conversation here, because I really love Augencore, as you might have guessed.
That's okay. Augencore's the one I've played the least.
Oh, maybe that's why. It's the one played the most. So yeah, in my opinion, you still want to have one of the combos. So in this case, this is my Augencore mid-range with the OTK version with Jury Rigged Juggernaut, which I have played 1,000 times, and I kind of can build it by heart. And for people that want to check it again, you can pause and look at all the different cards and just I think you should be able to make it out. But it hasn't really changed to its core. You put a lot of upgrades in your bank, you wait for the Jury Juggernaut and you one-shot them. But I think you can be a lot more aggro and pressure your opponent a lot more with this new updated workshop, Juggernaut workshop. And also I would say that if you wanna go for the other combo with which is basically just playing a lot of upgrades and salvaging them, it's still good. You can still do that with Augencore, but I still feel the OTK is the best. And then for the other decks, I do still believe that the second best would be John, which with his meme combo, which I don't know if you saw it, you could basically put Keth into your bank as the only upgrade, right? And you would play the drone. Damn, what's the drone's name? I always Scanner Probe. Yeah, you would play Scanner Probe, which has battle ready, and it only costs 2 energy, right? And then you would play Jean, which let me go Jean so people can see it here. So you would play Jean, and you would try to get 5+ stacks of Catherine, Keth, anyways, on the Scanner Pro, and you would one-shot your opponent basically with 128 damage or something, because it multiplies every time, right? So I still think that is viable, but I don't think that's top tier as it used to be. And yeah, that's my rant for Augencore. I would love to hear your opinion now.
Yeah, I mean, Augencore, I think still doesn't scare me too much. It definitely is more viable. I always find the security officer getting stacked with a lot of upgrades is a big pain. So I still like that combo. But the thing that I like about Augencore is I feel like there's good flexibility and utility within these decks.
True.
And there's a lot of ways that you can play them. So it's both beginner friendly, but I think this is a good deck for really strong players as well, because you can adapt to a lot of different situations and have a lot of answers to different combos that are going to be thrown at you.
Very well said. Very well said. Truly, very nice insight to it. And yeah, I feel like especially on tournament settings where you know, usually when you play tournament, you would have the 5 parallels or the 5 decks, and then or 5 or 4 decks depending on what parallel does for the pro scene, and you would have the opponent ban one of your decks out, right? So you would only play with 3 out of your 4 or 3 out of your 5, right?
Yeah.
And I think having an Augencore deck is kind of like the safety pick that you can play, not versus Shroud specifically, but I think versus the other parallels would make a lot of sense. Like, it can be a great utility tool versus specific decks you want to beat in a tournament setting or the ladder.
Yeah, it's definitely a good tool for skilled players.
Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know how much Marcolian you played, but I got bored of seeing Marcolian at some point in the alpha.
Understood.
Yeah, Marcolians unfortunately do fall under the category of me hit face and have a lot of burn damage. So you consider it like the most aggro deck, red from Magic the Gathering, if you ever played, but they were very aggressive, very fast, and they got nerfed many times throughout the gray box and the alpha. And now they did get a few changes, and I would say mostly nerfs, to be honest. But I would like to hear your opinion on them, and if you have a premier Paragon or deck in your mind for them.
Yeah, so I definitely do. Marcolian is easily my most played parallel.
Oh, okay.
Shroud, I think, is my favorite, mostly because I love purple. But but I like going fast, especially
Understandable.
when I'm playing ranked. I don't want my matches to take 15-20 minutes. I want them to be over quicker. So I like aggro decks for that reason, and naturally Marcolian appealed to me right away. In fact, when the alpha launched, Fitch was playing the vehicle deck right off the bat, and he got it banned before I even got to play one game. So that part wasn't too much fun.
You didn't play the super broken vehicle deck?
That's what I was planning to play initially, because I could tell, even before getting into the game, that it was going to be very, very good. And it was so good that it got banned basically immediately.
Oh, yeah. People...
I still haven't been able to play a full version of the vehicle deck with all of the cards in it yet. So Monday will be exciting for that reason. But despite all of the changes and the Armored Division HQ getting slowed down quite a bit, I actually think it's better than it used to be.
Really? Oh, controversial take. I like it. Do tell.
Yeah, so it's not going to be quite as reliable, because the thing that was so awesome about it before was that it was very, very fast and it was not very draw dependent. You could get lots of vehicles on the board really, really quickly, and I mean, even with a bunch of the banned cards, I was still finishing games on turn 6 pretty regularly. That's crazy fast, and that's why they slowed it down. But before, it used to be just a fixed +1/+0 buff, which was very nice. Now you get a buff for all of your vehicles at the start of every single turn.
Did I... Oh, it's each friendly vehicle. Wow, I read that wrong.
Yeah, every friendly vehicle gains one of the following abilities at random at the start of every turn.
Okay, this is why we have Kobra here, guys, because I can't read. I'm dyslexic. I need him here to help me. Wow, that is a great pickup. Damn, that's insane. All your... Wow. Holy shit.
Yeah, so it's going to take a little bit more time to build up, especially because several vehicles got nerfed from an energy perspective, and like the unstable drone is now 5 energy.
And the Crimson Fleet Machinist, though, I would say it's still really good, right?
Yeah, the Crimson Fleet Machinist is still awesome. That was one of the cards that got banned right away.
Oh yeah, I know.
It's a 1 energy unit, but it also lets you draw another vehicle.
And then
so,
it also gives extra 8 speed to your vehicles, which is awesome, to be honest. The unstable drone nerf is horrendous to me. I think like 5 energy for 3/4, that I understand that it gains buffs, but like 5 energy, that's not cool, bro. Like 5 energy is Lancer Tank. It does 4 damage to the enemy and 4 damage to any target. Like, what are we talking about?
You're still getting quite a bit though for that 5 energy. It is a lot, and I'm not thrilled about that one in particular. But the aftermath ability of dealing damage equal to its attack when it dies is still very useful, especially because it has Defender, so you can kind of pick when it dies, and it's usually taking out an extra unit at the same time. So you're still going to want the unstable drone in there, but it's it's not quite as annoying as it used to be.
For sure. I mean, I really like your take. I wasn't gonna go vehicles, to be honest. So I really like your perspective on it, and I think I shouldn't really count them out. I need to check them more out, for sure.
The other thing that's different about the vehicle deck now is that prior it was pretty tricky to play a longer game and actually win.
True. A longer game usually meant you needed Earthbreaker Cannon to pop off.
Yeah, pretty much. and that's, legendary, so there's only one. You might not draw it in time. Now, all of your vehicles that don't get removed right away are going to get beefy and really annoying. So if you can build up over the mid game, then you're going to have a lot of units with a lot of abilities that are hard to remove. And when you combine that with the ability to draw an additional card on every turn as well, when the Armor Division HQ is on the field, you're going to have lots of cards in your hand. So I think that this deck is still going to be quite difficult to play against. It's just not going to be, face melting on turn 3-4 of the game.
Yeah,
over.
I feel like it's gonna take a few iterations to find the correct balance for it from people that create, make decks for it. I feel like there is a lot of searching to be made for it, but your argument is really solid. And I do feel it's gonna be powerful, but I will go on the other side and say I don't think the premier meta deck for Marcolians, because I feel like Kathari is still number one, and the reason why
Kathari is going to be the most popular for sure.
I think the most powerful too, and the reason I'm going for that is that if you truly look at it, the nerfs on the effects and the damage spells and the units for Marcolians really weren't that big. Like, she still is a 4 energy 5/5. She still buffed every other unit with a +1/+1. You play 2 mercenary gunslingers, like a heavy weapons team, a three trigger happy troopers. You go interrogation tools. You just basically have 15 damage with orbital strike. You have 18 damage with determined assault plus crack shot. And then which is already 32. And then, 33. Can't math, apparently. It's 33. And then you have all the units. You have mercenary gunslinger dealing its 1 damage. You have all the small units early game that you're just like popping 2-3 units on the battlefield for the first 2-3 turns. And then you just completely go berserk. Like, you have them 15 HP within turn 3-4, around there, even 5 if you're slow. And then you just get some spells and win. So in my opinion, they're still gonna be the premier meta deck, and I think they might be able to give Shroud a run for their money due to the lack of Enthalpy's Grasp, and Erasure doesn't really feel good when you're removing a 1 or 2 energy creature and he has like 5 of them.
Yeah, Kathari is definitely one of the answers to Shroud for sure, and she might prove to be one of the meta decks as well. You could be right about that. She actually got buffed with the changes. They're small, but she was a 4/4 unit prior.
Exactly.
Not this 5/5. She also previously you couldn't heal her, and that has been removed. That said, Marcolian doesn't really have a lot of healing. That's kind of a nothing burger, but she got stronger. And the other thing is they didn't nerf any of the small units.
Exactly.
So Marcolian's got a lot of really interesting and annoying small units that fit great in a Kathari deck.
But here's the thing, they actually did a hidden buff. So first of all, they did nerf Ruthless Sergeant to be on a 5 energy and to only target units. But who cares? They only used it to be a 0, like a 0 energy unit to play the second unit. But you know what they buffed? Determined Assault used to be deal 4 damage to yourself and then 4 damage to anything. Then they nerfed it to be 4 damage to a unit only. Now they nerfed it to being a 3 damage to any target again, and they put its energy from 4 to 2.
Yeah.
Like, they buffed Marcolians again. So if you remember, and we'll go to a detailed rant at the end of the video for anybody that really wants to know the history of Parallel Alpha, we're gonna see like Shroud Marcolian supremacy yet again.
Yeah, I think so. Determined Assault, I actually didn't play at all before. the 4 energy and 4 damage was too big a cost, but now it is it's a very good a card, and you're going to see it a lot more often, I think.
For anybody that wants the deck, I've went through it. You can pause at any point. I sold it, and I think we ranted enough about Marcolians. We're both very passionate about them, and I loved your take on vehicles. But now we're gonna go to Kathari. And with Kathari, I will state, and maybe get again controversial, they have the most complicated deck building challenge out of any of the other parallels. They're not complicated to pilot in game, but they're extremely complicated to create decks for them, because they have many nuances and many details you need to think about, compared to, for me, to Shroud even.
Yeah, there is quite a bit to think about with Kathari and their cloning mechanics. That is true. I don't think it's too bad, but there is a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
So for the 3 paragons, my choice is Scipius. Now I will state that ATO is a great it's a great meme deck, and maybe potentially could even become a meta deck, but it's very, very predictable, and you really need to hit different units and effects into your waste. So I would never really say it's number 1 for Kathari, but definitely a good number 2. And then Gneus for me just doesn't seem to be as good as Scipius to set up the clones.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah. So
Gneus is for beginners. He's probably the easiest one to use, but I don't think anybody's going to play Gneus once they get a feel for the game.
Agreed. And for Kathari, the deck I went with really focuses on the idea of clone creation and re-establishment. So you play a lot of, you create your clones, you have your Reliant Gammas to buff them up each round. You even have a Tome of ATO which got buffed to produce more clones freely, because something we didn't talk about, and maybe we'll talk about at the end, relic removal got very, very nerfed. So you can play a lot more relics now, just to say that. So yeah, so you play the Reliant Gamma, Tome of ATO, and then you have some of the spells like, not Unnatural Selection and Archivist Pride, which don't really matter. And then you got the meat and potatoes, which is Cunning Scipion that creates clones. You have Valerusi Standard Bearer, which duplicates clones. You have Vengeful Ally, which gets extra buffs when the ally dies. You just really create this huge battlefield of clones each turn, and you really force your opponent to answer this. And right now, there are very, very few parallels that have the ability to fight this off. I mean, definitely the easiest to fight this off is, of course, as always, the Earthen. They always had the most easiest time versus Kathari. That's never gonna change. But I have to say, I feel like the aggro Kathari, if done right, maybe even rival the Shroud. Now, I feel like it could never, it could rival like a mid to bad draw Marcolian, but I don't think it can. Good card draw Marcolian is definitely gonna always win any Kathari deck, just because it's just that good. But I feel like there is definitely this aggro iterant creation deck. But please go on.
Yeah, I mean, I still really, really like the Skippy decks, or Skippy Magnus Alpha, the full name. Like you said, it's super duper fast. You can flood the field with lots and lots of cheap clones, lots of ways to buff them up, and it can be quite a lot for your opponent to deal with. I think it's going to take a little bit of gameplay to see which one's faster between Skippy and Catherine. I think Marcolian probably still just a little bit better, but they're pretty close. They're both really, really fast. If you get ideal draws with either one, you're going to be able to out sprint even a Shroud deck most likely. And then just a couple of things you didn't mention, but seeing triple still a wicked effect.
Oh yeah,
Creates
it's my favorite
1200
Kathari card. Always has been.
Yeah.
It's great. I
But
love it.
the other one that I really love for this deck that got a big buff is the universal unit Defiant clone.
Oh really?
So-
I was gonna talk about Rebel General, which is insane if you have a board with Kathari units.
Yeah, the Rebel General is also pretty nuts, but look at the Defiant clone now. It used to be 3 energy, now it is 2 energy.
Really? I didn't even notice. Wow. That's great,
Yeah.
actually. That's insane.
0, 3, and then for the, I know you know this, but for anybody checking out the video, the ability there is when a friendly unit enters the field, it gains +1/+0. With the Skippy deck, you're going to be making tons and tons of clones, often for free or very cheap. So Defiant Clone gets buffed up really big, really fast.
That needs to be answered.
Yes.
And yeah, I mean, also one more thing is that clones are tokens, and tokens are something not banishable. They can be banished, but they don't go to the singularity. They get obliterated from the game. So you can also make it so that Shroud decks do not want to banish the tokens. Yet though it would be very weird for a Shroud deck to banish tokens. To be honest, they would probably prefer, the Cunning Scipion or the Valarus Standard Bearer, but, just a thing that exists.
Yeah, there's always a more important unit to remove before a token, but but those tokens can get really big if they're left unchecked. So you might force them to do it. But you're right. I mean, this deck is, I think, probably the best clean answer to Shroud, just because it gives you such a good chance to outspeed them.
Yeah, and then some good, I don't know, some good mid-range cards anyways is that like crew boss still gives all your other friendly units +1/+1, which is great. And then Drusian X-Rator got buffed. And although they're slow mid-range, like the 4 first turns, you just want to build up your board, so you don't really care to play these 5 costs then and there. But like Drusian X-Rator just became give friendly clones +2/+1. That's insane. You have Crew Boss, Drusian X-Rator that give basically +3/+2, and then you also have where is he? Beloved Donor, which has Aftermath, give friendly units +1/+1. So your army can go really fast, and it's pretty insane.
Yeah. You also didn't mention the Standard Bearer giving another +1/+1 to other
I thought, yeah. I mean, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy when you get the right setup.
Exactly, it's the setup. I mean, Galleon Recombatant went to 5 energy and basically creates a clone with the same abilities as like Cunning Scipion or anything else that we mentioned before, which also gives you something extra to build on the board. And then some of the standard, also like Galleon Orator works great with this deck because it is 10 energy, but you can have it like a 1 energy very easily, to be honest. So you get like a 3/4/4, and then you destroy one, or you basically destroy or incapacitate one of your enemy's units, which is super powerful. Otius, always fun to play with as a legendary, not really crucial. I really love the chains to 8th Palm of Gully, which I don't know if you saw. It says waste target, reveal enemy bank card, and play a copy of it. So you get targeted copies of the enemy's banked card, which is insane. And it also gets +1/+1 for all revealed bank cards. So this, in a revealed deck for Kathari, could be very powerful. I don't think meta defiant, but really cool. And then as always, you have Antius Forecast, which you use it, in my opinion, with something like Frigate. Because, it creates a copy of a non-legendary clone in your bank, and that gains battle ready. So you get the Frigate that says after this unit survives combat damage, draw a card. So it's a 10/6, and you either deal 10 damage to the enemy, which is 1/3 of their HP, or you gain an extra card draw. So not bad.
Yeah, it's a good card for sure. These these Kathari decks are the ones that that really surprised me the most. I didn't think I would want to play Kathari
For sure.
at all, but these are really fun decks.
Yes. And again, to me, a great building challenge. I think people are gonna really enjoy when they see these decks in our YouTube channels. The free roll for my friend here, Kobra, and you know my channel, you're on it. I mean, hopefully, you know it. Jesus.
Can I throw out one more interesting card from Kathari?
Oh, please. I wonder which one.
The Tabula Rasa.
Oh, I never really liked this one, but do go on.
So the thing that's really fun about this one is you can make a clone out of a non-clone unit.
Yes.
So it's a zero cost 0/1 units with the muster ability. Spend your remaining energy and reveal a friendly banked unit with cost equal to the amount of energy spent. This unit transforms into a clone copy of the revealed unit. So if you can use this card to play a Vengeful Ally or a Defiant Gamma, then it also becomes a clone. So it gets all of the buffs that your other clones are getting from the Standard Bearer and Drusian Exorator and all that other great stuff we just talked about. Plus, it's getting the crazy amount of buffs that it naturally gets from units either hitting the field or dying. And so when you do that, you're able to build that into a real monster very quickly.
This is interesting, for sure.
Just in general, being able to turn a non-clone unit into a clone opens up a lot more additional possibilities.
I agree. It's not my preferred, but I think you have a point there for sure. And now let's head over to the last parallel, Earthen. And I don't know, how much Earthen did you play?
Earthen, I didn't like playing Earthen at all during the alpha.
Yes, super slow.
Well, I don't mind the slow part. I mean, it is super slow, but it's because of how broken Mizra was. It just didn't feel fair.
True, but I felt like Shroud just completely, laughed at that.
Shroud, yeah, that's. I mean, Shroud could deal with Mizra pretty easily, but everybody else, it's a huge problem.
Oh, for sure.
And it just didn't feel like very much fun playing it. So I'm going to be playing a lot more Earthen, and now that card has been fixed.
So before, fixed. What do you mean? It always just took +1. Oh, right, because it couldn't die when it went to 0, right? Because it got +1, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that was a stupid bug. That's true. Because if you guys don't know, even if it gets buffed, it says it has to survive to get +1/+1, which I will show you to you guys once we go to the decks. But yeah, it didn't die, it just remained with 1 HP, which was ridiculous, and that's not how game mechanics work.
Correct.
Excuse me. But yeah, my hot take on Earthen is that, and I've never really judged any of the decisions of the game design team, especially since they're done by Connor Merchant, as you'll have a lot of respect for him. I've talked to him many times, and I think he's a brilliant game designer. But I have to say that Earthen were completely, in every sense, nonsensical. They didn't have a correct path. You didn't have any specific thing you were building for. They had generally good cards, they had general concepts, but they didn't have cards to support their gameplay. And through the gray box into the alpha, they started putting a lot more body into the structure. So they had like the outline, but they didn't have the body. With the other 4 parallels, had the body and just needed balancing. And for me, they started putting on alpha the decay mechanic, which decay basically means that the unit that has decay takes 1 damage and its neighbors take 1 damage. And it's very interesting because now with this update, they added a lot more decay cards to the mix. And now you have this kind of like Almost, I don't know because I haven't played it, an almost full body decay build that works like a what's called like a gold Ruberg, or where one thing leads to another and just goes on and on. I don't, yeah, so it basically has this very, very interesting build now for Earthen, which I think it's gonna be, people are gonna take a few weeks to find out the Earthen deck, but I think that the Earthen might be a hidden OP. But do tell me your favorite or your meta choice for Earthen.
Yeah, I mean, Earthen, I think it's still not super clear to me which one is going to be the best. I have always been a big fan of Gafar. I still like Gafar, but it really is. You're right about the changes with decay, and I could see all three of these really ending up being top tier. And perhaps this is the Paragon where there's not a clear answer, and instead multiple ways to go about a similar strategy. Because Nehemiah's still very good, and Shoshana's, I mean,
really
super slow, but I think she can be pretty viable with some of these changes as well.
Yeah, for me, to be honest, I still believe Gafar is number one with the HP nerfs to Shoshana. And I mean, you still have the potential meme deck one hit KO with Life Vault, and that's what you pick Shoshana for. Or if the meta is super aggro, you still go Shoshana to survive. And I think that's her role. I think she will always be a tier 2. Very difficult to be a tier 1. Like, you would need to counter the meta to have her as a meta, so she's like anti-meta almost for me. But I think Gafar is gonna take the prize as a Paragon just because we have a lot more pacifist, and his ability to give friendly units +1/+1 while decay goes on just really exemplifies that they survive for more time. You stop the enemy units from attacking, and your units get buffed and more effects go off. So I think it's gonna be a very complicated deck to build, and possibly an extremely complicated deck to play. I can't say for sure, as I do need a lot of iterations on it, but that is my hunch. I still feel like Mizra loyalists are super, super strong. I still feel that Chains of Heart is insane, and Virulent Spores are an insane early game anti-aggro board clear, which I think possibly could mean that the Earthen are immediately powerful enough to withstand Kathari and Marcolians. I don't believe, like, Earthen always lose to Shroud. I think it's almost impossible for Earthen to win Shroud. I think there is a chance in the super late game if you have possibly a super close call with Gaia's Call and the Tree of Nehemiah. Maybe you can do something, but I think it's like 80% of the time you lose as Earthen to Shroud just because Ban is so good.
I don't think Earthen's going to be able to beat any brand decks.
Yeah, that's I completely agree. I think that they're gonna be able. So for me, I think they are the best tournament pick, though. I would definitely have a tournament Earthen deck just for the idea of, hey, he won with Shroud, now he has to play me with Marcolian or Kathari, or even Augencore, and I definitely am I'm very likely to get a victory with Earthen.
Yeah, I mean, Earthen is going to be the best response to an aggro deck for sure. Gafar should laugh at Catherine and Skippy decks, I think. Really any Earthen deck will, because Virulent Spores just destroys aggro decks.
I mean,
like it's nothing.
So, and let's not forget, like, Cape of Charmerhold is insane.
Ridiculous. I am blown away that Mizra didn't get nerfed at all. I thought for sure it's going to be at least 3 or 4 energy. And,
I'll be honest, I
it's
think because they've been so problematic to like create cards and balance, not even balance, just create a body for them, they just need to give them some base power love, because they're just gonna be unplayable if they don't have something like that, you know? That's what I understood from their choices.
perhaps it's just a wicked card.
Yeah.
But I think you're probably right that Gafar, I think, is the best chance to take advantage of all of the decay changes. Um, I do think that there's still some really interesting Nehemiah decks out there, especially because she can utilize the some universals a little bit as well with her defender mechanic, and that can create some really challenging decks too. I've run into Nehemiah decks where they just constantly are rolling out defenders, and getting any attacks through at all is a real problem. That said, the change to the vehicles deck, I think, really helps with that, because now they can get evasive as a buff as well, and that obviously goes around the defenders.
I see. I mean, maybe. I'm not convinced yet. I feel like there's a lot lacking with Earthen. They're gonna take some time to basically make them correct, but we'll see. Also, one last card just to talk to Earthen is Sour of Unrest, which says all units ignore pacifists. So if you ever wanted a one-turn KO, that's the way you do it. Because basically, Jonah is now the most useless 5-cost card I've ever seen in my life. So, you know, just play that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be playing Jonah.
It was, yeah, just.
But you're right that the pacifist combo, especially in Gafar decks, is going to be I think a pretty common win condition.
Yes, and one last question though, because I saw that and I'm not sure, but in the cheat sheet, right, a tune says at the start of the controlling player's turn, this unit changes between dormant and awakened state. Now, I don't know, like, the only attuned unit we have in the entirety of the game is Dauntless Axeman, right? And
I believe so, yeah.
And he says dormant, pacifist, awakened, when the unit is destroyed, put it into your bank. So, does this mean that every turn you get a unit becoming pacifist, thus proccing Kathari, thus giving an infinitely scaling +1/+1 to all of your units?
Well, it's going to mean that you get that every other turn.
Well,
right?
yeah,
So
every turn that comes back to your turn.
Every time it comes back to you is when it switches, right? So
on your opponent's turn, yes. On your every opponent's turn start, you have that, yes. Because you're dormant, right?
So you're dormant. It's just at the beginning of your turn that it switches. So basically, the Dauntless Axeman is dormant for one turn, and then awakened for one turn. So you end up getting that pacifist buff every other.
Yes. So every turn, every other. I mean, if you are counting your opponent's turn as a turn, I guess. Like, I mean, your turn is the player, because when it comes back to you, you will have done the cycle. Right? Am I wrong?
Attuned only triggers on the controlling player's turn.
Hold on.
So it doesn't trigger at the beginning of your opponent's turn. So you play Dauntless Axeman.
So when you press end turn, doesn't it become dormant?
It becomes dormant at the start of the controlling player's turn.
No, it becomes awakened in your start.
It attuned triggers at the start of.
So it only changes between dormant and awakened. Okay, gotcha. Okay. I mean, it's the only card, nobody played it. It wasn't even viable for the entirety of like Greybox and Alpha. So you'll give me the benefit of the doubt for not knowing exactly how this card works.
I don't think I've ever seen it played myself either, to be perfectly honest. So, but That's what the
Yeah.
that's what the cheat sheet says.
I think it's
so.
like a very interesting mechanic that's gonna be coming to us with the Planetfall update eventually, but we'll see. For now, it just is there. I think it's. I think if you have like 2 or 3 dauntless Axemans, they could very much buff your playing field. Anywho.
Yeah, I think with Kathari, it could be useful now.
Yeah. But, surprise! 6th deck! Yes, we are gonna talk about the universal meme deck. Which, in all honesty, is it really a meme deck? Well, yes and no. I don't know how much you played it. I think it's like a B, maybe even an A minus tier deck at times. I played with Lemieux because I feel like it has the most versatility. You focus on survivability early game. You have your live stream, mercenary, gunslingers, PSA launcher, and all the good legendaries. You then have some sanctuary to get some random early game drops of universal units. And just, you just go over to, you have some creatures, and then you go late game with Freydies to get, the draw 4 cards, deal 4 damage, get +4/+4, heal yourself for 4, and put target unit with energy cost 4 or less from the waste to the field. So it is a meme deck. I don't know if it could ever be super viable, but what's your opinion on it?
Well, this deck is really interesting. I think it got a pretty good nerf, unfortunately. And the reason why is one of the best Paragons is actually Skippy, or it was Skippy.
True.
The free unit was really useful. It's still really useful with the Freitas deck. You could pair it with the Squad Trader, so that you would have a free unit to sacrifice when you bring your Squad Trader out. You can still do that. Squad Trader is not as good as it used to be anymore because it's not free. And Skippy now produces a 0/1 unit instead of a 1/1 unit. So I'm not sure if that particular version of the deck is going to survive, but it was pretty strong. You can also play that deck with Nehemiah and include lots of defenders, and then you still get to take advantage of her passive ability quite a bit, and build up a nice defense while you wait to trigger Freitas. But the fact of the matter is, Freitas is not a Paragon, and you need to draw her, and that part is always going to hold that deck back just a little bit, because
it's also legendary.
Play it perfectly and then just not draw your single win condition card, and you're out of luck.
I do agree with you. I think eventually might get overbuffed, and it will be powerful maybe for a little bit, but for now I think it exists. It's a fun deck to meme around with. I think people should just try it out, in all honesty, just have fun with it.
Yeah, it is a really fun deck to play. It's also fun because you get to trick your opponent a little bit.
True.
Right? Because
True.
They see a Paragon, they think you're playing an Earthen deck or a Kathari deck or a Marcolian deck, and then within a few turns they figure out that you've got all universals and that you're actually playing Freitas, but it's fun to be able to trick them.
True, I agree. So we have gone over the 1 hour mark, and I thank you very much for your time, and let's get to the final take from both of us. What is which deck do we believe it's gonna take the cake for number 1 place, or do we even believe there is only one top tier deck? Now let's you take it off.
It's Brand. I think Brand is the clear meta coming out of the gate. It's got the least amount of weaknesses of any deck in the entire game. It's faster than Shroud decks have been in the past. It has multiple win conditions. I think Brand is going to be the clear winner. The 2 potential surprises, we've already called them out, but I think that there's a chance for Gafar decks to be really good as well. That's going to take some more play time, like you
But
said.
never against Shroud though.
Probably not against Shroud, but you never know. I mean,
you're right. You never know. That's true.
I do think it's unlikely against Shroud, but maybe. The other one I teased before was that vehicles deck. I still think that can.
That's
be
interesting.
nasty.
That's interesting. Yes. Yeah.
I'm going to be trying to prove that early on.
I like that from you.
If you see the free roll near the top of the ranks, then that means the vehicle deck is working.
I mean, hey, I'm gonna be try harding on the ladder. I'm gonna be playing normals. I mean, when I was playing in the alpha, people were shitting on me for playing like normals, testing decks out. And then when I was tryharding on the rank, they were like, "Why are you tryharding with the best decks in ranked while we play non-best decks?" I'm like, "What do you want from me? This is the game. If you want tryhard, you play ranked, and if you want shield, you play normal."
That's right. That's right.
I mean, I'm sorry for trying to be the best I can be. Like, goddamn, like leave me alone. But yeah. I'll agree. I think Brandt will be S+ tier, but S+ does not mean that S tier decks cannot win it. I think S+ is around a 53 to 55% win rate. But I do feel like the S tier decks like Marcolian, Catherine, Burn aggro will be very powerful against Shroud, and I do believe there is a chance for them to. I think it's gonna be dominated by Shroud Marcolian, in all honesty. Like, truly think that's gonna be the first 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks. Get ready for that. But I do think that vehicle decks might have an interesting take, as you said, and I feel the new Dawn might have something to say as well in the Shroud.
Yeah.
Feel Kathari aggro is possibly A+, S-. I wouldn't put it S. I don't feel like it has proven that in the past. I believe Augencore could possibly have an S- tier deck. I think it's gonna be very difficult to prove that they're above that, A+, S-. So I feel like Marcolian Shroud, head-to-head, tier 1, that's what I'm gonna be playing for my ranking up. Then you go down like tier 2 decks, just below these top tier decks. I put Augencore and Kathari, and then like this dark horse, we don't know what's happening with it, Earthen. That's where's my mind's at with it.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. I'm gonna put Brand as the clear number 1, and then tough to rank at this point, but Marcolian between Catherine and vehicles. I still think that the Skippy deck from Kathari is going to be pretty viable as well, and then Gafar rounding things out. I think some combination of those will be the top 5. But I think it's pretty clear that Brand is the meta.
Yes. And now that we talked about it this way, I'm just gonna create like a chart. So, we're an hour, 10 minutes in. I'm just gonna make a chart for the people to be like, hey, TLDR here, but go watch the video. Because I know people will see the 1 hour and be like, oh my god, that's impossible. Don't worry, in the first 2 seconds, you're gonna get this image. It's fine. You leave. Listen to some good opinions. But yeah, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you coming over, talking with me. It's been very pleasurable finally talking to a fellow player, and I would even say a hardcore player in this game, because I think you put a lot of time in, as you have told me before, and you are very knowledgeable. And I think that we're gonna have a lot of classes in the ranked, and we're probably gonna make a lot more videos in the future as well together, hopefully. So yeah, thank you so much for coming. Everybody make sure to go follow him at the free roll, which is in the description down below. And you have any last words for us?
Just thank you for having me and save me a battle on day 1, because I think it'd be fun to get a few matches in for sure.
Sure.
But this was a lot of fun, and yeah, I am geeked for the launch.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you all so much for coming here. Make sure to subscribe and like the video. Press the notification bell, because from tomorrow, it's the 31st, we're gonna be having all of the meta decks coming out in videos, explanations for them. So much content coming up from me and my buddy here, Kobra. So make sure to subscribe to both of us, and we'll see you all next time. Take care. Bye-bye.